Well, I think the Western Front always stayed the most important front for the British. But of course, in the Middle East, they were already in occupation of Egypt and had been since the late 19th century, and particularly the Suez Canal, which the British were very keen to protect. So when the First World War broke out and the Ottomans joined the German side, the Ottoman army tried to stage an attack on the Suez Canal in early 1915 in order to push the British away from the Suez Canal and possibly even to go on and take Egypt back from British control. The British then started to formulate their defense of the Suez Canal, and that defense turned into offensive action over the course of late 1915, 1916, as the British started to move east across the Sinai Peninsula towards Gaza, which was seen to be the gateway to Palestine. But there was a lot of debate, particularly in 1916, about whether or not it was worth using troops to try to advance in the Sinai and Palestine campaign and take troops away from the Western Front. Some people wanted to do it, others didn't. But when Allenby conquered Gaza in November 1917 and then went on to conquer Jerusalem, that really gave the momentum to the British war effort in the Middle East, because they were winning. Whereas at that time, particularly in 1917, they were not doing so well on the Western Front. And of course, they had been beaten at Gallipoli earlier by the Ottoman army. So it was a victory for the British, and that victory kind of built on itself. But it was not a pre-prepared plan to conquer the whole of Palestine. From 1915 onwards, it developed over the course of battle. And then the British went on, of course, in a very triumphalist way to conquer the whole of Palestine and fully occupy it. There was a lot of literature circulating in England, pulp novels, paintings, of course, Orientalist paintings by people like David Roberts, which depicted the Holy Land, and the Holy Land was certainly very prominent in the British imagination. So that was certainly part of the British interest in conquering the land, because it also provided a huge propaganda coup for the British army to say that they had conquered Jerusalem, the holy city, they had conquered the Holy Land. It was something that the British public could relate to through that kind of Orientalist mythology around the idea of the Holy Land. So it did play an important role, but we really need to look at the details of the military advances and the various battles to see the way that they led to this kind of exponential will to conquer that developed over time. You really can't kind of extract all these things from one another. Everything plays a role, but in my mind, really understanding at the level of detail and looking at the very particular moments of the military advance tells you more about the conquest of Palestine than kind of people's ideas about the Holy Land.